Call Senator Jillian van Turnhout. You have 8 minutes, Senator.
Thank you very much, Lashka Hirlock, and I was happy to swap with my colleague Senator Mullen because I wouldn't wish him to feel he's been silenced in the referendum debate in any way or contribute to that. So I would like to very much welcome Suzanne Costello of Alcohol Action Ireland to the gallery. And Minister, firstly I want to begin obviously by welcoming you to the Seanad and applauding you for what you're doing in this area. Indeed, I attended a seminar organised yesterday that the Department of Health invited us to on influencing healthy lifestyles, nudging or shoving the ethical debate, and it was really informative, and thank you for including us as members in that invite, Minister. With regard to the Public Health Alcohol Bill, which obviously, Minister, as you outlined, looks at the areas of labelling, minimum unit pricing, marketing, advertising, sponsorship, availability and price-based promotions in the mainstay. As a Health and Children Committee, we had some very good hearings on the issue and chaired by our excellent chair, Deputy Jerry Buttimer. And I welcome, Minister, that you actually came to the final hearing or session to hear the views of the committee, and very much what I heard from you today in the Seanad shows me that you took on board a number of the committee's feelings and sentiments in relation to the Public Health Alcohol Bill, and I thank you for that, and I know that we're finalising our report. I suppose it was with sadness, Minister, that I noted today the OECD report on tackling harmful alcohol, the economics and public health policy report that was published, that Ireland has the 4th highest level of alcohol consumption in the OECD, behind Estonia, Austria and France. That stands at 11.7 litres per capita for aged 15 years and over. And that's not where we want to be on this league table as 4th highest in any way. But interestingly, Minister, because several colleagues have talked about harmful effects, in its executive summary, I want to quote, it clearly says alcohol has an impact on over 200 diseases and types of injuries. In most cases, the impact is detrimental. In some cases, it is beneficial. In a minority of drinkers, mostly older men who drink lightly, health benefits are larger, it says. But then it goes on to say, harmful drinking is normally the result of an individual choice, but it has social consequences. The harms caused to people other than drinkers themselves, including the victims of traffic accidents and violence, but also children born with fetal alcohol spectrum disorders, are the most visible face of the social consequences. Healthcare and crime costs and low productivity are further important dimensions. These provide a strong rationale for governments to take action against harmful alcohol issue. And very often, Minister, people will talk about young people and children and very much talk about their consumption of alcohol. But they don't talk necessarily about the impact on children in families and in households. We see it with domestic violence figures in reports. We see it in lifestyle of seeing from their parents, and indeed Senator Burke mentioned about the young people, the young scientist winners, Does the Apple Fall Far from the Tree, who presented to the committee and who were excellent, but they quoted in their report from an recent ISPCC report that said, if you see your parents get drunk, whether you like it or not, it will have an effect on your life. And what actually surprised me in the report was that 1/5 of parents surveyed were not concerned if another parent or adult was to supply their adolescent with alcohol. And that for me just shows how normal it is. So if the adults in these young people's lives think it is acceptable to buy a young person alcohol, it for me shows how much we need to do in informing and educating the adults as well. I think all too often, obviously we do have to focus on young people. There is an issue with young people. There's a European-wide issue with young people. But as the saying goes, they don't pick it off the ground. And the adults in their lives very often set those role models, set the norms. If we look at it, where do adults? We go to the pub. That's the norm. We don't have other avenues, and we need to ensure that we have other avenues and that we provide other examples for our young people in Ireland. Minister, I fully endorse minimum unit pricing. Dr John Holmes and Dr Colin Angus from the University of Sheffield were excellent. They really provide a comprehensive report. I'm very happy to share it with any colleagues, and it really is excellent and goes through everything. And they've been very open. I've gone back and forth with them with 1 or 2 questions, and they've been really open on addressing any concerns that we have. Minister, I am concerned with the placing of the code on a footing that it has to be strong. I've seen the drinks industry find every loophole when we have the code. So for me it would be very interesting to see perhaps if we could look at the threshold of the audience profile measuring, for example, at 25% it is at the moment. I think it's far too high. 10% for me is where it should be looking at, even. Obviously I'd prefer that we had no advertising out there, but at the very least, to be reducing it. Minister, I'm also concerned, which I raised to you at the committee hearings, in relation to online and marketing. We know that a few years ago Diageo announced 21% of its marketing budget was going towards online marketing, and recently Finland introduced legislation banning alcohol apps that contained games, location settings and information on where was the nearest place to drink. And clearly, Minister, these are targeted to children. It's a social engagement. As has been said by colleagues, a young person who visits YouTube will see advertisements for alcohol that I don't see. It's very skilled targeting, because they look at the sites you're looking at, what YouTube videos you're looking at, and you get targeted advertising. And the drinks industry are doing it. I've seen it firsthand. If I walk into any classroom, Minister, and ask children to name their favourite advertisement on television, I guarantee you alcohol is up there. If you look at brand recognition, alcohol is up there. Which brings me, Minister, to the issue of sports sponsorship. I really believe, Minister, we should set a date, however far it is, set a date. I think it's very telling that neither the drinks industry or the sports organisations will tell us how much are we talking about with sports sponsorship. We don't have a figure. Now, I think that is unacceptable, that we don't know what we're talking about. Youth organisations who provide so much voluntary work across the country will not take a single cent from the drinks industry, and I don't see the government being put under pressure to replace. In fact, they cut youth organisations' funding by 40% during the recession, which they took and are still delivering those services. So I'm finding from the sports organisations, and some of them have stopped taking drinks industry money. But those who are still taking it, tell us, or I'm not saying they have to put it on a billboard, but very much at least let us make decisions based on reality. Let us know how much are we talking about in relation to sports sponsorship. Because last year, Minister, Alcohol Action Ireland had a hearing on the issue of sports sponsorship, and there was a teacher, a school principal, and he told about how, okay, we need to think back a bit, but when Munster won what you'd call in France the H Cup, he invited the team into his classroom to come to the school and visit the school, and he was delighted that a few of the team members said they would come. And they had a great day, but when they came and arrived with all their sponsorship and all the drinks advertising, he realised, as the principal of the school, he was the one who brought alcohol advertising into his school, and he apologised to his students for doing that. But it's so subliminal, it's so insidious, the way the drinks industry have a handle on us. So for me, it is totally unacceptable, and we really do need to look at it. In fact, at a recent hearing, Catherine Brown of the Institute of Alcohol Studies said alcohol sponsorship of sports is a gateway to children's bedroom doors, as they have the picture of their sporting hero on their bedroom door with the nice alcohol branding linking it to sporting success. If we're really serious, we need to tackle the issue. Minister,
half a minute.
Okay, we need to deal with the issue of separation, Minister. We also need to address the issue of the drinks industry role in decisions that we're taking. I'm very concerned if I look at jobs being advertised by certain drinks industries, companies, they want to stay one step ahead of regulatory developments. All of these things are in their job descriptions. They want to make sure that they can beat the system that you're doing. They're going to roll out and tell us it's all about education. If we were all more informed, we'd all make the choices. I know about education, I know about healthy eating, I know about lifestyle. I'm not as good as I should be, Minister, because that's not what changes my behaviour. Right? That's where the legislation is critically important, and that's where, Minister, you have my absolute and full support in this legislation. I just wanted to go further. I just want us to do more. I want us to follow policies like that the HSE has recently announced, that it will have no truck with the alcohol industry, so it won't have anything to do with it. Why isn't the Department of Education, the Department of Health equally coming out with similar statements? Child and Family Agency, I asked them, they're thinking about it. They should have no truck with the drinks industry. So I think we have to do a lot more in Ireland. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator van Turnhout.